Hi, everyone. So, this is something completely different. Welcome to the first installment of Hamtiques Roadshow. This is modeled after the popular PBS television show of a similar name. And before you all get up and leave, I'd like to help you by telling you that this will be a brief presentation. Ham radio and contesting have a rich history that deserves to be celebrated. So we're going to look at a few items today and talk about their history and their connections to famous contesters and what they might be worth today. So I'm going to invite a few people to bring things up to talk about. And the first person, I think, is someone who might have some things to share. It might be K1DG.
Let me give you a hand. Yep. Oh, thanks, Russ.
Yeah,
no, it's all right. We'll share this one. That's fine. When Russ said he was going to do this, I started looking around for some valuable antiques in my shack, and I found this one. This is K1EA Contest Log Software version 5.0 by Ken Wolf from 1989. This is a priceless antique, I think. I'm not sure what it's worth, what it would fetch at auction, what I should insure it for. I'm sure you'll help me out with that. I also found, this one's filled in. This is an Op-Aid 6 that maybe some of you remember. It's been filled in with a bunch of call signs. It was, I think, from a sweepstakes contest from a WA1 station. So obviously he didn't win anything. But I don't know if there's any, there are a lot of call signs from way back then, maybe they're valuable. And I even found an unused, pristine, perfect condition in the original packaging Op-Aid 6. So I wonder if maybe there's some value to these, Russ.
Yeah, so the Internet Archive for K1EA.com only goes back 25 years to 1999. That was 10 years after that CT diskette was made. And at that time, CT version 9.4 was made, or was out, and CT had a much wider list of contests. But I see that on your diskette, the WAE contest had been added, and that it was handwritten that it had been recently added. So that makes it more valuable. But in 1999, you could download CT from Ken's website, which was definitely progress. What makes this diskette rare is a couple of things. One is that you still have it in the 5 1/4 inch format. And that is the oldest common format for diskettes. Some of you might argue with me, those of you who remember 8-inch discs and bigger. It was replaced around that time by the 3 1/2 inch format, which the kids know as the Save Icon, which is far more popular because of its pocket size and durability. Now, do you have a way to read that diskette?
No, I've been thinking of asking K1ZM if he's got a computer that'll read it. I think maybe he does, but I don't.
Yeah, so not, yes, Bart. No, I have not. So it could be counterfeit. Yeah. So okay. Now we have he's swearing it's original. Okay, so that could affect the valuation. We'll get to that in a moment. So not many of these exist anymore. However, since so few of the computers with disk drives capable of reading these exist, and even fewer outside of Newtown, Connecticut, are capable of reading them, the value of this diskette is only perhaps $5 at auction. Now, speaking of electronic format, these other documents you brought are also interesting, and of course they have a lot of sentimental value. But at auction, they would likely bring $0. However, I do want you to know that some of those documents you hold in your hand actually come from the personal files of Lou Gordon, K4VX. So they could potentially bring a few dollars at auction. However, they are in Lou's library, which is a curated collection by KW9A. So for insurance purposes, they would be valued much higher. So thank you very much for coming up.
If anybody is interested in even though he says it's only worth $5. If anyone's really interested in this, I will accept offers, and the proceeds from whatever we settle on for a final price will be donated to WRTC. So.
Well, it sounds like we're getting bids. All right. Well, I'm not a licensed auctioneer in the state of Ohio, so I don't want to violate any laws. So, however, I do want to share another item, and then we're going to invite additional people who might have brought things to come up. So the next thing I want to share is a QSL card from UJ8JMM. And this one came to me from Ken Clairbout, K4ZW. Now, UJ8JMM, this QSL card is from Fred Lawn, K3ZO's alphabetically cataloged collection of QSL cards that K4ZW now possesses. And the story behind it is really interesting. I think you'll enjoy. UJ8JMM is, of course, the first call sign of someone many of us know personally, and that's Nodir, EY8MM. I don't think I need to say much about Nodir. Probably everyone in this room knows him. He's not here this year either, but he shared some information as well. Nodir is now in his mid-50s, but when he was just 16 years old in December of 1984, he and his father were in the shack one day when Nodir worked Fred, K3ZO, for his first USA QSO. And I'll let him tell the rest of the story in his own words. And he writes, "In those days, my homemade UW3DI transmitter would only work if it was on its side." And here's a photo that Nodir shared with me of his UW3DI transmitter on its side. Probably because the tube was too old, he says. The radio did not transmit if it was sitting on the table in the normal position. My father and I had just installed a 2-element Yagi, and I planned to try to work a VK, so I turned the antenna there. I had no idea about propagation to the US on 40 meters, and I didn't know that long path propagation existed. I was using a vertical key as my electronic key also didn't work. I called CQ. Fred came right back to me with a booming signal. He was 599. I was very excited. He gave me a 578 report. Signal quality was not good because I was using the key very hard and the table was shaking. The radio on its side was shaking too, and this was not good for the signal. I was not able to find Fred's QSL for the QSO, but I will remember it forever. Obviously, this QSL card is priceless. We lost Fred in 2023, but his logs are preserved at ARRL, his HQ, and his QSL cards are at K4ZW, among other items that have been saved. The chances are good that we all have a personal memory of K3ZO, and this one seemed particularly good to share because it underscores the personal connections that we make that may shape the future of young hams. And that's a great example. Nodir was 16 in this photo. So, and you know, if you look at what he has accomplished and the contributions he's made to ham radio, I think it's a really good example. So I would value the original UJ8JMM QSL card paired with the original K3ZO log page at auction at $500. But of course, it's really priceless. So now I'd like to ask if anyone else has brought items to share for the roadshow. Oh, I see someone bringing up. Oh, come on up, Jeff. What have you got there? Come on up. Come on up. Let's get you up here. Do we have a microphone that works up here, Glenn? 1, 2.
CW, please, CW.
I'd like to
Thank
switch
you, Russ.
to CW. Jeff Steinman, hang on. Jeff Steinman, N5TJ. Jeff, tell us about the blue keyer that you brought today.
This is an infamous WB4 VVF AccuCure. And you can see potentially the call sign, K4 Victor X-ray. This keyer, I used this keyer the first time 43 years ago in WPX CW at K4VX.
As N0, a young N0
KB0 Radio Charlie in those days. But yes,
RC, okay.
43 years ago, and it's aged well.
Yeah? You know, it still works.
It still works?
I have it on good authority from Dave Patton that it still works.
Is it? That's
Yeah.
good.
He turned it on and
This
tested
skier,
it. Yeah.
and tell you, so I operated the WPX CW. Lou had put an ad in QST that K4VX moving to Missouri, contesters wanted. As a kid, I saw that. I looked up an old QST, saw K4VX scores. I'm like, holy smokes, look at the scores, big gun. So he had only a 15-meter antenna up. He apologized that he only had 15, so I went 15 single band. Didn't win, but we finished second with okay. Lou was happy. Started many more contests up there over 5 years, he and Terry. And I think I could have won that contest if I had Doug's disc and we ran CT.
Oh.
We probably would have won the contest. I
Well-
wish, the op 8, I'm not sure, but those CT.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about the AccuKeyer. So Lou Gordon built this from a design by James Garrett, WB4VVF, which was published in August 1973 QST. It had unique features for its time, including dot and dash memories and PC board construction. Jim Garrett wrote 4 articles for QST, all of them between 1973 and 76. All 4 were on the AccuKeyer. Did any of you build an AccuKeyer in this room? Oh, look at all the hands. Wow. Any of you still have them? Of course, because you're hams. All right. Yeah. And it had add-ons including the AccuMemory and a display. Yep, I see hands. Okay. Now you use this keyer as a young ham.
Use this keyer?
So he built this in the 70s, and I know I have it on good authority that Lou used this in field day up through the 1990s. In fact, it has a sticker on the back. What does that say?
12/6/94 MOD.
It was last modified in
Last
December
modified.
of 94. So
He was good at keeping notes on things.
Yeah,
And
Lou-
documentation.
Right on. So Jim Garrett made PC boards for the AccuKeyer, and he, according to one of his QST articles, he sold 4,000 sets of boards in the first year after that article was published. As recently as last week, a new old stock set of boards sold on eBay for almost $100, including some original correspondence from WB4VVF. Now, for many contesters of that era, it was likely to be the first contest keyer that they'd built, and also maybe the first project with integrated circuits. Dave Patton, KW9A, shared with me that Lou had built this keyer in the 70s when he lived in Virginia. It had a prominent place in his Hannibal, Missouri contest station. I saw it there when I visited him in 1993. And in later years, after computers took over contesting duties, Lou used this keyer at field day, where he was often the only CW operator, and I'm sure some of you also recognize that. So we believe that he used it for at least 40 years in regular service, and it still works. So I would place the auction value on this at $500, but it's certainly more of an heirloom in spite of its cosmetic condition, which might actually make it more valuable. It's its original patina. It's currently preserved along with some of Lou's other contest mementos in Western Illinois.
Autographed with
And it's autographed,
tape, yeah, and
yes.
stickers, yes.
Thank you so much, Jeff,
Thank
for
you.
sharing that with us. Thank you. All right, do we have anyone else who wants to share an item? Oh, we have Mr. Tim Duffy, K3LR. Come on up. How are we doing on time, DG? Good enough, okay. Tim, good afternoon, sir.
Hi, Russ.
Tell us about this clock you've brought us.
Well, this is an original time meter, and this is still working in my shack today. It keeps extremely accurate time, and I learned from you a few days ago it was made in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
That's right. It was.
So it's original and it works.
There's some really interesting things about this clock that you even might not have known. That clock, it was made by the Penwood Numicron Company of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was patented. The design was patented by Frederick Greenwalt in 1935. Many different Art Deco designs with the same basic design were built, and it was marketed until 1972. So your clock was actually built in the final year of production. And in fact, that clock was made 1 month after WN3SZX was issued by the FCC. You might be interested to know. So now I don't think you've owned it quite that long, however, correct?
That's true.
So it's good to know that it keeps good time, though. The Penwood Numicron Company actually doesn't exist any longer. It was purchased by another company. It's now an empty lot in Pittsburgh. But how many of you, by the way, owned or own a time meter? Okay. So you're familiar, you probably can hear the buzz, right? The sound that it makes, yeah? The clunk as
And
well,
the clunk.
yes. And that's a comfort sound in your ham shack, if you could hear it over the blower noise. The ones we know and love most are the 24-hour models, and some of them, there was an optional 10-minute timer that you could turn on. It was a repeating timer to remind you to sign your call sign to comply with the FCC rules. Some hams even modified their time meter clocks, if it didn't have that option, to add the 10-minute timer. Now, many folks don't know this, but this style of time meter clock was made in the era before plastics were available. So many of these were made from phenolic material, and their feet were made from natural rubber. Because remember, this goes back to the 1930s. That key detail and the fact that they didn't keep time all that well until later is actually the origin of the term rubber clocking in ham radio contesting. Some of the early serial numbers had a feature that allowed the operator to dither the time to allow to inject believable rubber clocking that was undetectable by contest sponsors. Now, once log checking improved, that version became highly collectible because it disappeared from the market immediately. And that little tale, of course, is completely false. However, what's true is that these clocks are truly ubiquitous for features of ham shacks for decades. The Penwood Numicron clock company no longer exists, and today, again, is an empty lot. I would place the auction value of this clock because of its condition. Oops, I didn't move ahead there. Because of its condition and its K3LR provenance at $400.
Jeez.
However, a more typical eBay price for one in good condition is closer to $65 to $100. Thank you very much. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Not at all. You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Somebody-
If you enjoyed today's program and you'd like to see more like it, please share your feedback with me and suggest other items for next time. Thank you so much, 73. Back to you, Doug.